Hey there, learners. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Hola, aprendices. How's it going? We are here today on behalf of a very special reason, something that's very near and dear to my heart, Pokeballs and their names. And more specifically, we're going to take a look at the Pokeballs and their names in Spanish and break down the vocabulary that we can find. So without further ado, sin más dilación, we'll take a look at the bolsito, the bag. Open that up. We're going to go to the Pokeballs. In Latin American Spanish, they're Pokeballs instead of just Pokeballs. And we'll start with the OG Pokeball, the Pokebola. It's the OG, just a Pokeball. When it makes sense to read the description, like for more context, we will, but we don't really need to for the OG one here. Alright, and we will start with the most basic, the most famous, the OG, the Pokebola, the Pokeball. And it says down there, dispositivo con diseño capsular, so a device with a capsular design que captura Pokémon salvajes, that catches or captures wild Pokémon, se lanza como una bola contra el objetivo. It's thrown as a ball against objetivo, against like that looks like objective, but it sounds better to say target. Moving on to the Great Ball, or in Spanish, Super Bola, es una Pokébola de alto rendimiento. So the alto rendimiento is like high performance, is how we would translate that. So it's a higher performance Pokeball. Tiene un índice de captura superior al de la Pokebola estándar. So it has a índice de captura, so it's like a capture rate, is how I translate that. So it's got a superior capture rate to the standard Pokeball. Ultra Bola, it's an Ultra Ball, clearly. Una Pokebola de rendimiento superior, so superior performance Pokeball again. Tiene un índice de captura mayor al de la Superbola, so it's got a higher capture rate, or a greater capture rate. Mayor here is working as that word greater, so it's got a greater capture rate than the Superbola, or the Great Ball, that is. So interesting how instead of Great Ball, it's Super now. Then Ultra and Poke say the same. Then we have Honor Bola, which very clearly is an honor ball. Or no, they're not called honor balls in English. They're... Oh, why am I blanking so bad? Austin John always uses them. It's the only one he uses for shinies. Premier Ball. Oh my goodness, it's a Premier Ball. Honor Bola. So that's another one that his name changes. It's like honor. So I guess es un honor recibirlo. It's like an honor to receive it, I guess. Una Pokébola, algo singular que se creó para conmemorar algún acontecimiento. So it's a Pokeball, algo singular, like a little singular or a little unique, I would say, because singular can also be mythical, but that's not what this is in this case. So it's a somewhat unique Pokeball that was created to conmemorar, to commemorate algún acontecimiento, some happening or some event. Acontecimiento is like a happening or an event. Then we have Sanabola, which you'll recognize as a heal ball, and sana comes from the verb sanar, which means to heal. So that makes a lot of sense. Sanabola. Una Pokébola curativa, so a curative Pokéball que restaura los PS y cura todos los problemas de estado. So that restores los PS is punto de salud, or HP, or health points, right? So it restores the HP y cura todos los problemas de estado. It heals all the status problems de un Pokémon después de capturarlo. It heals all the status problems of a Pokémon after capturing it, después de capturarlo. Then we have Maya Bola. Y una Maya, like Mayas can be like stockings, kind of, but then also like in a net, in like a fishing net set. So this is a Maya Bola, it's a net ball. So una Pokebola, algo distinta a los demás que funciona especialmente bien. So it's a Pokeball, algo distinta a las demás, a little different than the rest, que funciona especialmente bien, that works especially well with los Pokemon de tipo agua e insecto, that work with Pokemon with a water and insect type, or bug type Pokemon. Sorry. Then we have Nidobola. Nidobola, if you recognize, it looks like the nest ball. It's a nest ball. Nido is the word for nest, so that makes a lot of sense. Una Pokebola, algo distinta a las demás. And again, a ball a little different than the rest, que funciona especialmente bien, that works especially well with los Pokémon salvajes de nivel bajo. So, de nivel bajo, low level Pokemon. Then we got Buceo Bola. Buceo Bola, looks like the dive ball. Bucear is the verb to dive, so Buceo Bola makes a lot of sense here. It comes from to dive. So we know it's una Pokéball, algo distinta a las demás. I'm just going to skip to the last part. Funciona especialmente bien con los Pokémon, con los Pokémon que viven en el agua, especially well with Pokemon that vive in el agua that live in the water. Then we have Bola, which, if you recognize it, is a dusk ball. In ocaso is one way to say dusk in Spanish. We can also say like anochecer is like when it's turning nighttime, which is what dusk is, but el ocaso is also like the dusk. So we know it's different than the rest. Especialmente útil, especially useful para capturar Pokémon salvajes en la noche. So especially useful for capturing Pokemon, wild Pokemon at night. Y no hace referencia a ninguna cueva ni nada. It doesn't like make reference to any like caves or anything in this game because there aren't caves. There's like some inside spaces, but I don't think those count as night. So it's interesting. Turno bola. You'll recognize this as a timer ball. In turno, you're like, that's clearly not timer. Timer is temporizador in Spanish. So turno is like turn ball, because what does it say in the description? We'll explain it a little better. Una Pokébola algo distinta a las demás que va mejorando su rendimiento. So it's a Pokeball a little different from the rest. Que va mejorando su rendimiento is like it continues improving its performance. Cuantas más acciones lleva a cabo el rival. So depending on how many actions the rival or like the opposing Pokemon carries out. Let's lleva a cabo. Oh no, berries, not berries. Okay. Now onto the Veloz Bola, which is I think a lot of people's favorite, most used in the whole game. Veloz Bola comes from la palabra veloz, de velocidad, which means speed, or veloz is fast, so or quick. So quick ball. Una Pokébola algo distinta a las demás. Yep. Cuyo índice de captura, so whose capture rate, es mayor si se usa con los Pokémon salvajes. It's greater if it's used with wild Pokemon antes de que estos te vean, before these ones see you. So again, in this game, the function of the ball has changed a little bit, because quick ball, it said it was superior capture rate if you throw it at the beginning of the battle. Easy, done. That's not, beginning of the battle is more of a gray area in this game, so it just says before they see you, so it's kind of like it only works well with the back shots, you know. Alright, you'll recognize this one as the repeat ball, the acopio bola, and clearly we know repeat in Spanish is repetir, or volver a hacer algo, right? So acopio bola, you might be thinking, what? Acopio comes from the verb acopiar, which means to like collect or to stockpile. So it's like the collector's stockpile ball, which I feel like the connotation of that is a little bad when it comes to Pokemon, because they're supposed to be living beings, so you shouldn't just be stockpiling living beings, but that's where it comes from. So it's like the stockpile ball in Spanish, but the repeat ball. And it says, funciona especialmente bien con las especies de Pokémon ya capturadas, so with the one you've already captured or caught. Then we got this one, la siguiente bola, la siguiente Pokébola, digo, la lujo bola. Clearly, luxury ball, and algo de lujo is like something from luxury, it's luxurious, so lujo is luxury, so this one's a clear translation. It says, una Pokébola acogedora, so acogedora, si algo es acogedor, it's like comforting or welcoming, so it's like a comfortable or welcoming Pokéball, que hace que los Pokémon salvajes capturados, it makes captured wild Pokemon, se vuelvan amistosas más rápido, makes captured wild Pokemon become friendlier faster. Okay, next ball we have Rapibola, which clearly comes from the word rapido, but calling it rapida or rapida bola, it's like a mouthful, so they switch or trim it down to Rapibola. And this, we are now finally on to our first bank ball. So these are the ones you have to earn in special ways through battling or whatnot, that come from the original Johto games, the Apricorn balls. But anyway, the fastball in English, the Rapibola, says especialmente útil, especially useful para capturar Pokémon con tendencia a huir. So especially useful for capturing Pokemon or catching Pokemon with a tendency to run or to flee. Huir is to flee. It also can be translated as to run, but only in the sense of if you're running away from something, like flee. Next, we have the Amigo Bola. I feel like this one don't even talk about. Everyone knows Amigo's a friend. Looks like a friend ball. It's a friend ball. Que, what's it say? Que hace más amistosos a los Pokémon salvajes inmediatamente luego de capturarlos. So, as opposed to the luxury ball, this one makes Pokemon become more friendly over time. The Amigo Bola says it makes them inmediatamente luego de capturarlos. So, right after capturing them, it makes them friendlier. So, this is one difference between the luxury ball and the friend ball. or the lujo bola y amigo bola. Now we have la señuelo bola, which is a trabalenguas. That's a mouthful for sure. This one was interesting because I distinctly remember from playing in like Spanish in years past when it was just the Castilian Spanish or Castellano, like Spain Spanish, that the señuelo bola was a cebo ball. Cebo ball. Not cebo bola because in Spain Spanish they're all balls instead of bolas for some reason. But cebo and señuelo are both ways to say like bait or lure. So I don't know why they switched it to señuelo bola. I guess maybe it sounds better than cebo in Latin American Spanish, but it's just a mouthful. But anyway, this is the lure ball. It says funciona especialmente bien. It works especially well con los Pokémon que viven en el agua, Pokemon that live in the water. So again, it's just like an older, fancier dive ball. Suitable for Pokemon que viven en el agua. Then we have nivela bola, which is the nivel level. So we know that in this game, if you look at the Pokemon on the screen, it says NV instead of LV because level LV in español is NV nivel or nivel. So the nivela bola is a level ball. Que funciona mejor cuanto menor sea el nivel de Pokémon salvaje en relación con el del Pokémon propio. So let's break that down. It works better cuanto menor, so the lower the level of the wild Pokemon in relation to the Pokémon propio. Pokémon propio, like your own Pokemon. So works better when the level of the wild Pokemon is lower than your own Pokemon. So level ball. Now we got skipped a couple. Pesa bola. Pesa bola. This is the heavy ball. We can all recognize it. And pesa, si algo muy pesado, it's very heavy. Or si algo pesa mucho, it's heavy. That comes from the verb pesar. So pesa bola, like heavy and weight. Those two words have a linguistic relationship, or I should say etymological relationship in Spanish, because si algo, if something weighs a lot, it's heavy. So si algo pesa mucho es muy pesado. It makes kind of sense. To me, it makes sense. Anyway, what to say? We know based on the explanation, it works with heavy things, right? Una Pokébola que funciona mejor cuanto más pesado sea el Pokémon que se quiere capturar. So it works better the heavier the Pokemon that you want to capture is. That's how we translate that. Then we're coming up towards the end here. We have La Luna Bola. This is another one of those Spanish words that I feel like a lot of people know, and like half of the United States has named their dogs after La Luna, the moon. I know so many dogs named Luna. But anyway, que captura con más facilidad Pokémon que evolucionan con la piedra lunar. So this Pokeball captures con más facilidad. It's like easier. So more easily captures Pokemon que evolucionan con la piedra lunar. Pokemon that evolve with the moonstone. So instead of la piedra luna, like literally like moonstone, lunar means it comes from the moon, which makes the most sense because moon in the chunk moonstone is an adjective. So to make luna an adjective in Spanish is lunar. Anyway, next. I think I have two more in my inventory, but we're going to talk about two additional balls because one I haven't earned yet and one I've already used. So let's take a look at the Ensueño Bola, which you'll recognize this, maybe not as much as the others, because this is not an apricorn ball. This is a bank ball that came from like the Dream Zone. I think it was like Generation 5 when they introduced this ball, because you'd have to go to like the Dream area with Tornadus and Landorus and whatnot. Then you'd catch Pokemon in there in these balls. I don't know if you could I can't remember if you could earn the balls actually, but regardless, Ensueño Bola, the Dream Ball. And with regards to the name, you might be thinking like sueño. You might be thinking ensueño. I thought dream was sueño. What's with this en? So ensueño is another way to say dream, but normally sueño we can use it to like, oh, I have a dream of being a, I don't know, Pokemon master. You're not really referring to like the dream you had when you were sleeping, right? So to differentiate clearer, sueño can be both, but ensueño specifically refers to like the content of a dream. We're not talking about a dream you have to be like a piloto or a pilot or something, you know. But anyway, it says funciona especialmente bien con los Pokémon somnolientos. So instead of saying con los Pokémon que están dormidos, instead of saying like the Pokemon that are asleep, saying con los Pokémon somnolientos, which is how we say drowsy, because I think In Scarlet and Violet, no, not in Scarlet and Violet, but in Pokemon Legends Arceus and in Pokemon Legends ZA where's my fingers? In both of those two games, they changed the sleep status condition to drowsy, just because of the way the gameplay is. So that's why it says that. Somnolientos is drowsy. Moving on, these balls you could earn. Oh, we can't see them. Okay, we're gonna beep, 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 beep. Nope, moved the wrong one. Hold on. Beep, 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 beep. Now we can see it. No one noticed. No one noticed. Okay, in these balls you could earn, I think at the end of the first season of competitive online, these are called competibolas, which, you know, if you earn these are sports balls, and you might be thinking, deportes is sports, why this has nothing to do with sports? Well, let's look at the description, that will make a lot more sense. It says, una Pokébola especial utilizada, so a special Pokeball used, in el concurso de captura de insectos in the bug catching contest de la región de Johto, from the Johto region. So this was used in a competition or a contest, like una competencia. So that's why it's called competibola, because they were used in a competition instead of sport ball. So I think I prefer the name in Spanish. I think it makes a little more sense. But now we're gonna move on to those two unnamed balls that I talked about that I don't have in the bag. So taking a quick look at, we'll go to our party. Xerneas here, you can see, is in the amor bola. Amor bola is a love ball from the verb, or the noun, clearly amor. I don't have the description here, but I do know that the amor bola funciona especialmente bien con los Pokémon del mismo sexo que el tuyo. So the works specific, or especially better, especially well, with a Pokemon that's the same sex as yours. I don't think Xerneas has a gender, but I caught it with the love box. I thought it'd be sick. Okay, and the other ball left that I do not have, I haven't earned because I've not finished my 1,000 battles. I'm barely to 500. If we go to las tareas de Mabel, or Mabel tasks, we'll see me queda por ganar. I still have yet to earn the Master Bola. And I'll move this over to the side, la Master Bola, so we can see the full description. And it says, la Pokébola definitiva, so the definitive Pokeball, captura cualquier Pokémon salvaje y no falla nunca. So captures any wild Pokemon and it never fails. Well, thanks for checking out the video. That's all the Pokeballs that are so far released in Scarlet and Violet. If you can think of any I forgot, or have any suggestions for further videos, please be sure to leave that down below in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Like if you learned something, subscribe if you want to learn more. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Gracias aprendices. Thank you learners. Hasta la próxima. Till next time.